Welcome to Volume and Vision. Imagine waking up exactly 1 year from today. You look around your room, your work, your finances, your health, and your relationships. Then a question quietly appears in your mind. Did I actually become the person I wanted to be? Most people answer that question with silence. Not because they are lazy. Not because they lack talent. Not because they don't dream big enough. They fail because they believe they have plenty of time. The strange thing about time is that 12 months feels incredibly long when you're standing at the beginning of the year. You tell yourself you'll start next week, then next month, then after the holidays, then after you're less busy, then after life settles down. But life never settles down. One distraction becomes another. One unfinished task becomes 10. One missed day quietly becomes an entire season. And before you realize it, another year has disappeared. Now imagine a different life. Instead of waiting 12 months to change, imagine transforming your life every 12 weeks. Not because you're working harder, not because you're sacrificing your happiness, but because you've learned to focus on what truly matters. That's the powerful idea behind the 12-week year by Moran and Michael Lennington. It challenges one of the biggest assumptions we've accepted without questioning, that success should be measured by the calendar. What if the calendar has been slowing you down all along? What if a year is simply too long for the human brain to stay fully committed? Today, we're going to explore a completely different way of thinking about productivity, achievement, and personal growth. By the end of this journey, you may never plan your goals the same way again. Because success isn't created in the distant future. It is built today, one focused action at a time. Let's begin. Have you ever noticed how people behave when a deadline is far away? Suppose a university student receives an assignment that is due in 3 months. During the first week, they barely think about it. The second week passes, then another. They tell themselves they'll have plenty of time later. Months quietly slip away, suddenly only 3 days remain. And somehow, in those final 72 hours, they accomplish what they couldn't do in the previous 3 months. How is that possible? Did they suddenly become smarter? Did they magically gain new abilities? No, the deadline changed everything. Urgency forced focus. Focus created action. Action produced results. Now think about how many areas of life don't have immediate deadlines. Learning a language, building a business, improving your health, reading books, saving money, starting a YouTube channel, writing your first novel. Because there isn't a pressing deadline, our brain treats these dreams like they can wait forever. Tomorrow feels safe. Next week feels reasonable. Next month feels harmless. But tomorrow has a dangerous habit. It keeps becoming another tomorrow. This is exactly where most people lose years of their lives. Not through dramatic failures, but through tiny delays repeated thousands of times. The authors introduce a simple but powerful observation. The traditional yearly planning system creates an illusion. When people think they have an entire year, they unconsciously lower today's importance. Missing one workout doesn't feel serious. Skipping one writing session doesn't matter. Ignoring one business opportunity seems harmless. But every small decision slowly shapes an entire year. Think of your life like a giant ship crossing an ocean. If the captain changes direction by just 1 degree, the ship won't seem different after 5 minutes. Even after an hour, the difference is almost invisible. But after crossing thousands of kilometers, that tiny 1 degree shift leads to an entirely different destination. Life works the same way. Small daily choices don't seem important until months later. Then they become your reality. Most people dramatically overestimate what they can accomplish in a week. At the same time, they underestimate what they can achieve with consistent effort over 3 focused months. That's because motivation is exciting. Consistency is ordinary. Everyone loves setting goals. Very few enjoy repeating small actions every single day. Imagine 2 friends. Ethan spends an entire weekend creating the perfect yearly plan. Beautiful notebook, colorful charts, detailed schedules, long lists of goals. Everything looks impressive. His friend Daniel spends only 1 hour planning. Instead of 20 ambitious goals, he chooses just 1 meaningful objective. For the next 12 weeks, nearly every important decision supports that single goal. Who do you think succeeds? At first, Ethan appears more organized. His plans look professional. His intentions sound inspiring. But within a month, reality interrupts. Unexpected meetings, family responsibilities, bad weather, low motivation, stress. His perfect plan slowly falls apart because it tried to manage an entire year at once. Daniel experiences the same problems. But his response is different. His goal is close enough to feel urgent, simple enough to stay clear, specific enough to guide every day. Week after week, his progress compounds. After 12 weeks, Ethan has impressive plans. Daniel has impressive results. That difference explains why some people seem incredibly productive. They're not necessarily working more hours. They're making fewer decisions. Every morning they already know what matters. This removes one of the biggest enemies of progress, decision fatigue. Think about how many choices you make before lunch. Should you exercise today? Should you study now or later? Should you work on your business? Should you answer emails? Should you watch one episode? Should you scroll social media for just 5 minutes? Every decision drains mental energy. The more choices you make, the weaker your discipline becomes. Successful people don't rely on stronger willpower. They eliminate unnecessary choices. When your priorities are crystal clear, your actions become automatic. That's why elite athletes follow routines. That's why successful entrepreneurs schedule deep work. That's why great writers often write at the same time every day. Routine protects focus, and focus multiplies results. Here's another fascinating truth. The world celebrates dramatic success stories. The athlete who wins the championship. The company that becomes worth billions. The author whose book changes millions of lives. But we rarely see the invisible work behind those moments. Thousands of quiet mornings, hundreds of disciplined evenings, countless ordinary days where nothing exciting happened except one small promise being kept. Real success isn't built during extraordinary moments. It's built during ordinary Tuesdays. On days when nobody is watching. On days when motivation disappears. On days when quitting feels easier. Because anyone can work hard when they feel inspired. Very few people continue when inspiration is gone. That's where transformation begins. Most people believe confidence creates action. But the truth is often the opposite. Action creates confidence. Imagine you've never exercised before. Waiting until you feel confident about going to the gym may take years. But walking into the gym once, completing one workout, returning the next day, each action slowly builds evidence. Your brain begins to believe a new story. I'm becoming someone who exercises. Confidence follows proof, not promises. The same principle applies to every meaningful goal. You don't become disciplined first and then take action. You take action first. Discipline grows afterward. This idea changes everything because it removes the pressure to feel ready. You don't need perfect confidence. You don't need perfect motivation. You only need today's action. And today's action is always smaller than your fear makes it appear. That realization alone has changed countless lives. Because the biggest obstacle standing between most people and extraordinary success isn't lack of intelligence. It isn't lack of opportunity. It isn't even lack of time. It's the habit of postponing the first step. And once you finally understand how dangerous delay truly is, you begin to see time differently. Not as something that stretches endlessly into the future, but as a resource that quietly disappears every single day. That shift in perspective is where the real journey begins. Because before you can build an extraordinary 12-week cycle, you first have to understand the hidden beliefs that have been controlling your life for years without you even noticing. The moment you begin treating time as something valuable instead of something unlimited, your entire approach to life starts to change. Think about how people usually spend their mornings. The alarm rings. They reach for their phone. 5 minutes on social media somehow becomes 30. A few notifications turn into a chain of distractions. Before they know it, the day has already begun reacting to other people's priorities instead of their own. Now imagine another person. They wake up with complete clarity. Before opening any app, they already know the single most important task that will move their life forward today. Not 10 tasks, not 20, just one mission. It might be writing 1,000 words for a book, practicing coding for 90 minutes, recording the next YouTube video, calling 5 potential clients, studying one difficult chapter. Whatever it is, they protect that task as if the rest of the day depends on it. Because in many ways, it does. One meaningful action completed every day may seem insignificant. But imagine repeating that for 12 straight weeks. 12 weeks of reading every morning. 12 weeks of exercising without excuses. 12 weeks of creating content consistently. 12 weeks of learning one valuable skill. The results become impossible to ignore. People often search for secret formulas. They ask successful people about morning routines, productivity hacks, expensive software, and hidden techniques. But those are rarely the real reason behind extraordinary success. The real difference is commitment. Average performers negotiate with themselves every day. Successful people negotiate once. They decide who they want to become, and then their daily actions simply follow that decision. Imagine planting a tree. If you dig it up every week to check whether it's growing, you'll destroy its roots. Goals work the same way. Many people keep changing direction. One week they're learning graphic design. The next week they're trying to become traders. A month later they're planning an online business. Then they switch to something completely different. None of these ideas are necessarily bad. The problem is that constant switching never allows momentum to develop. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in personal growth. At first, everything feels difficult. The first workout is exhausting. The first video feels awkward. The first chapter takes forever to write. The first sales call feels uncomfortable. But something remarkable happens after enough repetition. What once demanded enormous effort slowly becomes part of your identity. You stop saying, "I'm trying to write." Instead you say, "I'm a writer." You stop saying, "I'm trying to get fit." Instead you become someone who trains regularly. Identity changes behavior far more effectively than motivation ever can. This is why chasing motivation is often a losing strategy. Motivation is emotional. It comes and goes. Some mornings you'll feel unstoppable. Other mornings you'll question every decision you've ever made. If your progress depends on how motivated you feel, your results will always be unpredictable. Discipline is different. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It asks what needs to be done. Picture an airline pilot. Imagine if the pilot decided to fly only on days when they felt inspired. Nobody would trust that airline. Instead, professionals rely on systems. They follow checklists. They trust processes. They repeat proven actions until excellence becomes normal. Your goals deserve the same treatment. Stop treating success like a hobby. Treat it like a profession. Professionals show up whether they feel like it or not. There's another mistake many ambitious people make. They confuse being busy with being productive. A calendar full of meetings, hundreds of emails, constant notifications, endless multitasking. At the end of the day they're exhausted. Yet when they honestly ask themselves what meaningful progress they made, the answer is often very little. Being occupied is not the same as moving forward. Imagine climbing a ladder as fast as possible. If the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall, climbing faster only takes you further from the life you actually want. That's why clarity matters more than speed. Before asking how fast you're moving, ask where you're moving. One clear direction is worth more than endless activity. Take a moment to imagine your future self exactly 12 weeks from now. Not 12 years, not even 12 months, just 12 weeks. Picture yourself waking up with more confidence because you've kept promises to yourself. Your knowledge has expanded, your health has improved, your habits feel natural, your work has started creating opportunities that didn't exist before. Now ask yourself a simple question. What would that version of you thank today's version of you for doing? Would they thank you for watching one more episode? For scrolling another hour? For postponing difficult conversations? Probably not. They would thank you for beginning. For choosing consistency over comfort. For staying focused when distractions were easier. The truth is, your future is built by conversations that nobody else hears. The conversations inside your own mind. Every single day your brain offers you two stories. The first story says, "You can start tomorrow." The second says, "5 minutes is enough to begin." One story keeps your dreams alive. The other keeps them alive only in your imagination. The voice you choose to believe eventually becomes your life. That's why successful people don't wait for perfect conditions. Perfect conditions don't exist. There will always be uncertainty. There will always be unexpected problems. There will always be reasons to delay. But there will never be a better time than the moment you decide that your future deserves today's effort. And once you make that decision, something extraordinary begins to happen. You stop measuring success only by the final destination. Instead, you start measuring success by the promises you keep every single day. Ironically, that's when the biggest achievements begin to appear, not because you're obsessed with the outcome, but because you've become obsessed with the process. And when the process becomes your priority, progress is no longer something you hope for. It becomes something you expect. Because every focused day quietly adds another brick to the life you're building. Most people never notice these bricks. They only notice the finished building. But every extraordinary life is constructed exactly the same way. One decision, one action, one ordinary day at a time. If there's one idea that separates people who constantly dream from those who consistently achieve, it's this. They don't wait for life to become easier. They become stronger. Most of us believe success comes after finding the perfect plan. We spend weeks researching, watching videos, reading articles, comparing strategies, and searching for the one method that guarantees results. But here's the truth. A perfect plan has never changed anyone's life. Plan only becomes valuable the moment it's put into action. Think about learning to swim. You could spend years reading books about swimming techniques. You could memorize every movement of the arms. You could understand how breathing works underwater. But until you step into the water, all that knowledge remains just information. Life works exactly the same way. Knowledge creates possibilities. Action creates transformation. This is why so many intelligent people remain stuck. They know what to do. They simply don't do it consistently. Imagine two young entrepreneurs. The first spends 6 months designing the perfect logo, building the perfect website, choosing the perfect business name, and waiting for everything to look professional before launching. The second starts with a simple website, an average logo, and a product that isn't perfect. Every week, they collect feedback. They improve little by little. After 3 months, the second entrepreneur has real customers, real experience, and real income. The first entrepreneur still has beautiful plans. Perfection is one of the most attractive forms of procrastination. It disguises itself as preparation. It whispers that you're almost ready. That one more course will make the difference. That one more book will finally give you enough confidence. But confidence isn't something you collect before starting. It's something you earn after starting. Every successful person you admire was once a beginner. Every best-selling author once stared at a blank page. Every famous athlete once struggled through their first practice. Every successful business owner once made mistakes that felt embarrassing. The difference is simple. They didn't allow being inexperienced to become an excuse. Instead, they accepted that progress always looks messy in the beginning. Another lesson that changes everything is understanding the power of focus. Imagine holding a magnifying glass under the sun. When the sunlight is scattered, nothing happens. But the moment all those rays concentrate on one tiny point, they become powerful enough to create fire. Your attention works exactly the same way. Scattered attention produces scattered results. Focused attention produces extraordinary outcomes. Unfortunately, the modern world is designed to steal your attention. Every notification competes for your focus. Every headline demands your curiosity. Every video promises to change your life. Every social media platform wants just a few more minutes of your time. Individually, none of these distractions seem dangerous. Together, they quietly consume years. Ask yourself an honest question. How many dreams have been delayed because your attention was borrowed by things that didn't really matter? Probably more than you realize. This doesn't mean you should eliminate entertainment or never relax. Rest is important. Enjoyment is important. But there is a huge difference between choosing to relax and accidentally escaping from your responsibilities. Successful people understand this difference. They don't eliminate fun. They schedule it. That way, relaxation becomes a reward instead of a habit of avoidance. One of the greatest myths about achievement is that successful people have unlimited energy. They don't. They simply protect the energy they already have. Think about your smartphone. Even the most expensive phone becomes useless if dozens of unnecessary apps keep running in the background. Your mind operates in the same way. Unfinished tasks, constant worry, endless comparison, negative thinking. These mental processes continue running quietly in the background, draining energy long before you begin your important work. That's why mental the greatest productivity tools you can develop. Before trying to do more, remove what doesn't matter. Sometimes success isn't about adding another habit. Sometimes it's about removing one distraction. Remove 1 hour of meaningless scrolling every day. That's over 80 hours in 12 weeks. Imagine what 80 focused hours could create. A new language, a valuable skill, a profitable side business, dozens of YouTube videos, an entire book. The opportunity has always existed. The challenge has always been attention. There's another habit shared by almost every high performer. They regularly measure their progress. Imagine driving across an unfamiliar country without ever looking at the road signs or checking your map. Eventually, you'll get lost. Not because your destination was impossible, because you stopped checking your direction. Life is no different. Many people set goals in January and think about them again in December. By then, it's too late to make meaningful adjustments. Instead, imagine asking yourself one question every week. What moved me closer to my goal this week? Notice the wording. Not what kept you busy. Not what consumed your time. What actually moved your life forward? This simple question forces honesty. Some weeks the answer will make you proud. Other weeks it might feel uncomfortable. Both are valuable, because awareness always comes before improvement. The purpose isn't to judge yourself. The purpose is to learn. Every week gives you information. Every mistake gives you feedback. Every success reveals a strategy worth repeating. When you stop treating mistakes as evidence of failure, they become evidence of growth. Children understand this naturally. When a child learns to walk, they fall hundreds of times. Nobody calls them a failure. Nobody says walking isn't for them. They simply stand up again. Somehow adults forget this lesson. One setback suddenly becomes proof that they're incapable. One rejection convinces them to quit. One bad week makes them abandon an entire goal. Imagine if children approached learning the same way adults often approach success. Very few of us would ever learn to walk. Progress has never been a straight line. It has always been a series of adjustments. Forward, backward, forward again. The important thing is never confusing a temporary setback with a permanent identity. Failing at something doesn't make you a failure. Missing one workout doesn't make you unhealthy. Skipping one study session doesn't make you undisciplined. One bad day never defines an entire life. What defines your life is what you repeatedly choose after the bad day is over. Do you restart, or do you surrender? That single decision shapes far more futures than talent ever will. The people who eventually achieve extraordinary things aren't the ones who never lose motivation. They're the ones who know how to restart quickly. They don't waste weeks blaming themselves. They don't wait for Monday. They don't wait for next month. They simply begin again, because they understand one powerful truth. Consistency doesn't mean never falling off track. Consistency means returning to the track faster every single time. And once you develop that mindset, something incredible happens. Failure stops feeling like the end of the journey. It becomes another step that quietly prepares you for the success that's waiting ahead. There's an old saying that goes, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. At first, that sentence sounds almost disappointing. We like believing that big dreams automatically create big results. But think about it. Every January, millions of people promise themselves they'll become healthier, wealthier, or more successful. For a few weeks, gyms are full, books are purchased, courses are started, new planners are filled with beautiful handwriting. Then something happens. Life, a stressful week at work, a family responsibility, a bad night's sleep, an unexpected expense. Suddenly the excitement disappears, and with it, the new habit. The dream wasn't the problem. The system was. Goals tell you where you want to go. Systems decide whether you'll ever get there. Imagine two pilots flying toward the same destination. One pilot simply knows the city he wants to reach. The other has a complete flight plan, fuel calculations, weather reports, backup routes, and regular checkpoints. Who is more likely to arrive safely? The answer is obvious. Yet when it comes to our own lives, many of us operate like the first pilot. We know what we want. We rarely build a reliable system to reach it. A powerful system starts with one simple question. What is the smallest action I can repeat almost every day? Notice that this question doesn't ask for the biggest action. It asks for the most repeatable one. Because consistency beats intensity almost every time. Reading 50 pages once a month feels productive. Reading 10 pages every day quietly transforms your knowledge. Running 10 kilometers once feels impressive. Walking or jogging every morning changes your health. Working 16 hours one day usually leads to exhaustion. Working with deep focus for 3 or 4 meaningful hours every day creates remarkable progress. Small actions repeated hundreds of times eventually become impossible to ignore. Nature has always worked this way. A river doesn't carve through mountains because it's stronger than the rocks. It succeeds because it keeps flowing. Drop after drop, day after day, year after year, persistence eventually achieves what force cannot. This is why patience is often misunderstood. Patience doesn't mean waiting without doing anything. Real patience means continuing to work even when visible results haven't appeared yet. Think about planting bamboo. For years, almost nothing seems to happen above the ground. Someone looking from the outside might believe the seed has failed. But beneath the surface, an enormous root system is developing. Then, almost unexpectedly, the bamboo begins growing at an incredible speed. People call it sudden success. It wasn't sudden. The invisible work simply became visible. Your own progress follows a similar pattern. For weeks, your efforts may appear insignificant. Nobody notices. Your audience remains small. Your income barely changes. Your body looks almost the same. Your skills still feel average. It's tempting to believe your work isn't making a difference. But every focused day strengthens something beneath the surface. Knowledge, experience, discipline, confidence, problem-solving ability. These are roots. And when the roots become strong enough, visible growth happens much faster than anyone expects. This is why comparing yourself to other people is one of the fastest ways to lose motivation. You rarely see someone else's roots. You only see their tree. Social media has made this even more dangerous. People proudly display promotions, luxury vacations, successful businesses, perfect physiques, awards, new houses, smiling photographs. Very few people show the years of uncertainty that came before those moments. The nights they questioned themselves, the mistakes they made, the opportunities they missed, the failures nobody applauded. Comparing your beginning to someone else's highlight reel creates an illusion that you're falling behind. You're not. You're simply watching the movie from the middle instead of the beginning. The only comparison that truly matters is between who you were yesterday and who you're becoming today. If today's version of you knows a little more, has a little more courage, acts with a little more discipline, then you're already moving in the right direction. Another powerful habit is learning to protect your environment. Many people believe success is entirely about self-control. While discipline is important, your surroundings influence your behavior far more than you realize. Imagine placing a bowl of fresh fruit on your kitchen table. Beside it, place a box filled with chocolates. Which one are you more likely to eat? Now imagine replacing the chocolates with nothing but fruit. Without realizing it, your decisions begin changing. The same principle applies to every area of life. If your phone is always beside you while studying, you'll probably check it. If your television is running in the background while working, your concentration weakens. If the people around you constantly complain, your thinking gradually becomes more negative. Your environment quietly shapes your habits every single day. That's why successful people often design their surroundings before trying to change themselves. A clean workspace encourages focused work. A notebook placed on your desk reminds you to write. Workout clothes prepared the night before make morning exercise easier. Healthy food in the refrigerator makes healthy eating more likely. None of these changes require extraordinary willpower. They simply reduce unnecessary friction. The easier good habits become, the more naturally you'll repeat them. At the same time, make unhelpful habits more difficult. Delete distracting apps during important projects. Keep your phone in another room while working. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Create boundaries around your attention. Remember, every notification is asking for a piece of your future. Protect it carefully. One overlooked secret of long-term success is learning how to recover. Many people believe working non-stop is the fastest route to achievement. It isn't. Machines overheat. Athletes need recovery days. Even nature follows seasons of growth and rest. Your mind is no different. Deep work requires deep recovery. That doesn't mean wasting hours minding entertainment. It means intentionally giving your brain the opportunity to recharge. Go for a walk without your phone. Read something inspiring. Spend time with people who genuinely matter. Sleep enough to wake up energized instead of exhausted. Some of your greatest ideas won't arrive while you're forcing yourself to think. They'll appear during moments of quiet. A peaceful morning, a long walk, a conversation with someone you trust. Space allows creativity to breathe. Finally, understand that every meaningful achievement asks for one difficult payment. Not money, not luck, not talent. The price is delayed gratification. The willingness to choose what benefits you tomorrow instead of what feels comfortable today. Every successful investment follows this principle. You sacrifice something small now for something much greater later. Time works the same way. Every hour you invest in learning, every workout you complete, every chapter you read, every difficult conversation you have, every promise you keep to yourself, they all become deposits into the person you're becoming. At first, those deposits seem tiny, almost invisible, but just like compound interest quietly multiplies money over time, disciplined actions multiply into a life that eventually looks extraordinary. And perhaps the most beautiful part is this: the person standing at the finish line isn't simply someone who achieved a goal. They're someone who became capable of achieving many more. Because success isn't just about reaching one destination. It's about transforming into the kind of person who can create success again and again, no matter what challenge life places in front of them. And once you understand that, you stop chasing temporary victories. You begin building a life where growth itself becomes your greatest habit. One day, years from now, you may look back on your life and realize that everything changed because of one small decision. Not because you won the lottery. Not because someone handed you a perfect opportunity. Not because life suddenly became easier. But because you finally decided that your future deserved your full attention. Every remarkable story begins with an ordinary moment. A student opens a book instead of opening another social media app. An entrepreneur makes one more sales call after hearing 10 rejections. A writer sits in front of a blank page for the 100th time. An athlete wakes up before sunrise while everyone else is still asleep. From the outside, these moments seem insignificant. But they are the moments that shape destinies. The world often celebrates dramatic breakthroughs. What it rarely celebrates are the thousands of invisible choices that made those breakthroughs possible. Success is usually quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It grows in silence. Imagine watching an iceberg floating in the ocean. What you see above the surface is impressive. But what you don't see is even larger. The visible part represents achievements. The invisible part represents discipline, sacrifice, patience, learning, failures, persistence, and countless ordinary days that nobody applauded. Every meaningful accomplishment follows this pattern. People admire the result. They rarely notice the process. This is why it's dangerous to chase recognition before mastery. Recognition depends on other people. Mastery depends entirely on you. When your focus shifts from impressing others to improving yourself, something remarkable happens. Pressure disappears. Learning becomes enjoyable. Mistakes become valuable. Growth becomes inevitable. Instead of asking, "How quickly can I succeed?" you begin asking, "How much can I improve today?" That question changes everything. Because improvement is always within your control. Results are not. You can't control when people notice your work. You can't control market conditions. You can't control luck. You can't control other people's opinions. But you can control today's effort. You can control your attitude. You can control your habits. You can control whether you choose action or excuses. And over time, those are the only things that truly matter. Think of your life as a long journey across the ocean. The destination is important, but if the captain spends every minute staring at the horizon instead of steering the ship, the journey won't last very long. The captain succeeds because of constant adjustments. A slight turn here, a correction there, a quick response to changing weather. Progress doesn't require perfection, it requires awareness. Your life works exactly the same way. Every week gives you an opportunity to make small corrections. Maybe your morning routine isn't working anymore. Adjust it. Maybe you've taken on too many commitments. Simplify them. Maybe you're spending too much time consuming information and not enough time creating. Shift your priorities. Tiny adjustments prevent massive regrets. Many people believe confidence comes from winning. But real confidence comes from keeping promises to yourself. Every promise you keep sends a message to your mind. I can trust myself. That trust becomes the foundation of self-belief. Imagine promising yourself you'll read for 20 minutes every day. At first, it feels like a small commitment. But after weeks of consistency, something changes. You no longer see yourself as someone trying to build a reading habit. You become someone who reads. The habit has become part of your identity. Identity is far more powerful than motivation. Motivation says, I want to. Identity says, this is who I am. And people naturally act in ways that are consistent with who they believe they are. So instead of asking yourself what you want to achieve, ask yourself who you want to become. Do you want to become someone who finishes what they start? Someone who learns continuously? Someone who keeps their word? Someone who faces challenges instead of avoiding them? Every action either strengthens or weakens that identity. Choose wisely. There's another lesson that many people discover only after years of frustration. Your biggest competition isn't another person. It's yesterday's version of yourself. The internet makes comparison almost unavoidable. Every day, you see people announcing promotions, launching businesses, buying homes, traveling the world, or reaching incredible milestones. It's easy to feel like you're falling behind. But remember something important. Everyone's timeline is different. Some people bloom early, others bloom later. Some build success in public. Others build it quietly for years before anyone notices. The only race worth running is the one between who you were and who you're becoming. If you're stronger than yesterday, if you've learned something new, if you've become a little more disciplined, then you're already winning. Never underestimate the power of gradual improvement. Improving by just 1% every day sounds insignificant. You probably won't notice the difference tomorrow. You may not notice it next week. But over months and years, those tiny improvements compound into extraordinary results. Nature teaches this lesson everywhere. A tiny seed becomes a giant tree. A single snowflake becomes an avalanche. A small stream becomes a powerful river. Greatness rarely begins with something dramatic. It begins with something small that refuses to stop growing. As your journey continues, you'll face moments of doubt. Days when nothing seems to be working. Moments when quitting feels easier than continuing. Those moments don't mean you're on the wrong path. They often mean you're closer to growth than you realize. Every challenge asks the same question. How badly do you want this? Most people answer with words. Successful people answer with actions. They continue when excitement disappears. They continue when progress slows. They continue because they've learned a secret that changes everything. Feelings are temporary. Purpose is lasting. The people who build extraordinary lives aren't always the smartest. They aren't always the most talented. Often, they're simply the ones who stayed long enough for their efforts to compound. Think about your own dreams for a moment. Maybe you want to build a successful business. Maybe you dream of becoming financially independent. Maybe you want to write a book that inspires people. Maybe you want to become healthier, stronger, or more confident. Whatever your goal is, remember this. It doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for commitment. One focused day, then another, then another. Eventually, those days become weeks. Those weeks become months. Those months become a completely different life. The future isn't created in one extraordinary moment. It's created in thousands of ordinary moments that most people overlook. That is why every morning matters. Every decision matters. Every habit matters. Because each one is quietly casting a vote for the person you're becoming. Imagine meeting yourself exactly 1 year from today. What would that future version say? Would they thank you for protecting your time? Would they thank you for staying disciplined when nobody was watching? Would they thank you for believing in yourself before anyone else did? Or would they ask why you kept waiting for the perfect moment that never came? That answer depends entirely on the choices you make starting today. Remember, time is the one resource that can never be earned back. Money can return, opportunities can return, even lost relationships can sometimes be rebuilt. But today's 24 hours disappear forever. Use them wisely, build with them intentionally, protect them fiercely, because one day you'll realize that your life wasn't shaped by a few giant decisions. It was shaped by the small choices you repeated every single day. And perhaps that's the most empowering truth. You don't need a completely different life tomorrow. You only need to become slightly better today than you were yesterday. Repeat that often enough, and one day people will call your success extraordinary. They'll never realize it was built through ordinary days that you simply refused to waste. If you enjoyed this journey and found even one idea that changed the way you think about your goals, take a moment to support Volume and Vision. Subscribe to the channel, because every week we explore powerful books, timeless ideas, and practical lessons that can help you grow in every area of life. Share this video with someone who has big dreams but struggles to stay consistent. And let us know in the comments, what is the one goal you'll commit to over the next 12 weeks? Remember, your future isn't waiting for the perfect time. It's waiting for your next decision. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep turning knowledge into action.